Today, I wanted to look at this capital budgeting again, and I just wanted to kind of make sure that any of you missed it. I'm going to go through a quick review here, okay, just in case anyone missed it. So what we've got with this capital budgeting is really a bunch of little subjects that are all kind of thrown in together, but effectively they all are decision-making tools. As a manager, you're going to be tasked with the idea of spending someone else's money, be it a company's money, a town's money, anything else. So you're tasked with spending other people's money.
I always did like spending other people's money.
Yeah, I know. It's a terrible thing. I kind of like it too, but on the other hand, it comes with a share of weight, right? As we prepare the town budget, it comes with a share of weight. The fact of the matter is, when you get ready to spend someone else's money, you want to be able to make the wisest possible decision on where to spend that money, or whether or not you should or shouldn't spend that money, all right? So capital budgeting is all about that. It is about making decisions with regards to complete a project, buy something, not buy something, rent something versus buy something, these types of scenarios. I've broken this section into a series of topics. And the very first one deals with capital budgeting, which is really net present value calculation. It says, let's look at the time value of money in order to help us make a decision with regards to money that flows over a period of time. Okay, so let's say we have a project that costs us a good chunk of money up front, but it's going to pay money into the future. And effectively, what we need to do is to compare the amount of money we're putting up front versus the value of, or the net present value, in other words, the present value now, today, of that stream of money that we're going to get. And what we're going to do is compare how much money we put up front versus the value of the stream over time, and ask ourselves, is this worth pursuing? That's the simple crux of it, is we want to be able to do that. So do we do it or do we not do it is really the point. I showed this little video here. I had a simple little scenario where you have a town who's trying to buy a tractor or thinking about buying a tractor. It has an outlay up front, and then it has several years of value that comes from the tractor in terms of work done. And we're going to compare the upfront payment versus the net present value of the stream. So you can, I've already showed it, but I'm not going to show it again today, but you can see that, you can see that that process. And in order to make this process work, what we do is we look at the stream of payments that's coming from it, from the given project, and we bring the value of the stream back to present day. Now, the stream could be a steady stream of money. So it could be like every year we get $5,000, okay? Or it could be a situation where every year we get a different amount of money, say $3,000 next year, $6,000 the year after, and so on. Depending on the type of situation that we have, whether it's a stream of money, constant stream, or whether it's a series of positive amounts, we got to be able to count to figure out the net present value. Well, for a stream, we can do the net present value of an annuity if it's a stream of constant dollars. So we just use the annuity formula, calculate the present value of an annuity, and that will bring that back, and we compare it against how much we invested. If it's not a steady value of money, we can use the present value formula and do a present value calculation on all of the items. So this particular one that I have right here in front of you now, the example 61A, looks at the scenario where we've got differing amounts of money coming in over the course of a period of time. So we got a 4-year investment, promises to pay $3,000, $6,000, $5,000 at the end of the first, second, and fourth years, respectively. A cash injection of $1,000 is required at the end of the third year. The investment may be purchased for $11,000. So effectively, we got a whole bunch of numbers being thrown at us, okay? What we need to do is allocate those numbers in time. So $11,000 we got to put up right now. That's now. The $3,000 is going to come in the first year. So we got to discount that back 1 year. The $6,000 is going to come in 2 years. So we got to discount that $6,000 back 2 years. The $5,000 is going to come in 4 years. So we got to discount that back 4 years. And the cash injection of $1,000 is required at the end of the third year. We got to discount that back 3 years. So we got pluses and minuses of money. Money that's coming in, pluses, and money that's going out, minuses. We take the present value of all of those, which is what we're doing here at the given discount rate. So the rate in this particular example is 5%. So we take 3,001 over 5, which gives us the present value of 2,857. Take 6,000, 1.05 to the power of 2, and that we get the present value of that at 5,442. The $1,000 that we got to put out, we're doing the present value of that. So that's you notice it's a negative. That's money flowing out. That's in 3 years' time. So we're taking the present value of that, 864. The 5,000 is coming in 4 years' time, so we take the present value of that. That's 4,114. We add those together, and that's $11,549 net positive. Well, we got to pay $11,000 up front, so that kind of comes off that. So really, we're $549 to the good. So if we ask ourselves, should we or should we not? If we're $549 to the good, yeah. Let's do it. So that's kind of how that works. And I got a second example there. Works on the same basic thing. The rates, the rate of money, the value of money or the rate of return is going to have a significant impact on whether or not we accept or reject the investment. Okay. So I'll things up on a kind of I use a graph paper kind of thing. And effectively what I do is I take the net present value on the left-hand side, and I just bring everything back to that. So the timeline goes along the top right, and I just kind of write my amounts along there. I take the present value, and I bring the present value and put in that column there on the left. Negative numbers would represent money going out. Positive numbers would represent money coming in. You add them all up, and you get the sum of the value at the end there. And if it's positive, great. If it's negative, let's not bother doing it. Looked at in the video, I did Van Camp in the video. I did that example, and that was good. In the I don't think this one's on the video, is the timber rights of attractive forest. Okay, I believe I'm right in saying that's not on the video. What I'd like us to do is to take a few minutes and to do number 4, okay? So I just wanted to talk through it first before we do it. If you're looking at number 4, it says the timber rights to a tract of forest can be purchased for $250,000. So that means we got to put $250,000 out now. The harvesting agreement would allow 25% of the timber to be cut in first, second, fourth, and fifth year. The purchaser of the timber rights will be required to replant at their expense in year 3 and 6. Okay, so we got 6 years of total activity going on here. Arrowsmith Lumber calculates that its profits in the 4 cutting years would be $90,000 a year. And the cost of planting would be $30,000 a year. So what we have to do here is to get the net present value of all those sum amounts. And the net present value, which I don't have put in yet. So if we use this little table I got here, this little dynamic table, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6 across the top. The initial outflow of that was $250,000. So I'm going to put minus $250,000 right here. And then for years 1, 2, 4, and 5, I'm going to put how much money came in. So 90,000 in year 1, 90,000 in year 2, 90,000 in year 4, and 90,000 in year 5. So basically, I'm going to line that up. And then money going out was in year 3, it was 30,000 going out. So year 3 is over here, 30,000 going out, and year 6, 30,000 going out. So I want you to kind of take a few minutes to set that problem up. And while you're doing that, I'm going to see if I can add in my solution set. I'm going to go to the problem. I'll keep that up there. I'm more interested in the setup as opposed to the calculation. Okay, I think I've given enough time. You probably don't have to finish, but in the meantime, just let me just show you this here. Okay, so hopefully I think you can see this.
Yeah.
You can see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we got is in the first year, 90,000, second year, 90,000, fourth year, 90,000, fifth year, 90,000. That should be 90. So I've just put the years across here and the present value is down here. So 250,000 right away is spent. That in order to get in the ball game here, you got to spend 250,000. 90,000 is going to come in the first year. So we take 1.055. Where'd the 055 come from? The cost of capital is 5.5%. That's 0.055. And 1 plus 0.055 to the power of 1 is, well, the formula is, so 1.055 to the power of 1. That comes to, the present value of that is 85,308. Year 2, there was another $90,000 that came in. It is 1.055 to the power of 2, seems 2 years. This then equates to the present value of $80,860. In the third year, that was a replant year, so 30,000 had to be spent. So we take 30,000 divided by 1.055 to the power of 3, since 3 years. That's a negative 25,548.41. In the fourth year, there was another 90,000 come in, so we take the 90,000, 1.055 to the 4, and that's equivalent to 72,649.51. In the fifth year, another 90,000, that's 1.055 to the power of 5. That's 68,862. And then in the final year, there was a 30,000 planting. So we take that 1.055 to the power of 6, and that comes to 21,757. I then proceeded to add up all of these numbers to pluses and minuses accordingly, and I got 10,374.59 positive. So this indicates we're using this as a decision-making tool, so the exact number doesn't matter, okay? You don't worry about decimal places. In fact, you could round these to the tens of dollars. It doesn't matter. What we're trying to do is, does this make money or does it not make money? That's the basic question that's being asked. So I calculate that we're 10,000 and change to the good. So thinking about this project pays us money. This is worth doing because there's benefit in it at 5.5% cost of capital. So we should move ahead with the project. And if we're asked, well, how much do we expect? Well, we expect $10,374. Do you see that?
Yeah.
In question 5, then, question 5, it says repeat problem 4, but change the cost of capital to 7%. Okay, so I just changed it to 7%. Now, again, what I've done in question 5 is I've done the same thing here again. Number 5, 250,000 has to be put out for the purchase. 90 minus 30, 99 minus 30, 7% cost of capital, which is 0.07. We do the exact same thing here. 90 in, 30 out, 90 in, 30 out. We take the present value of them. We add up that, and even though I can't see it because that thing is there in the way, I think it's to the positive, if I recall. Yep, it's 1,600 or 1,161 to the positive. Now, it's still to the positive, so we will still move ahead with the project. We will still buy the timber rights. But obviously, with the higher interest rate, the return just isn't there as strong as it was before. So we might want to ask ourselves, is this worth doing? Or do we have an option that's better? Okay, so instead of a raw decision, the raw decision is, yeah, let's go. But we need to consider, too, is there another project that potentially is better? Okay, but this is how this type of net present value calculation works. All we're doing is we have a string of flows of dollars, and we are looking to assess them, compare apples with apples, all in that first year. The lease problem is almost identical, okay, in terms of how that works. It's only when we talk about a lease, we're talking about a constant flow. So this is an annuity. When we decide between leasing and buying capital assets, one of the considerations has to be which option will cost less in today's dollars. So before we value a lease, let's look some of the lease terminology. So we got to think about the lease amount, which is the present value of the assets being leased. And we need to look at something called the residual value, which is how much we'll get back at the end in one way or another. Usually, in a lease, there may not be any residual value, but in a purchase, there is. So we can calculate our lease payment. It's usually given it to us. And we use this present value of lease formula, which is just a present value formula for a annuity. And where lease payments are made at the beginning of the period, it's an annuity due, hence that 1 plus I. So in this particular example right here, we looked at number 7 the other day. We looked at number 7. A machine can be leased for 4 years at $1,000 per month at the beginning of each month. So that, by definition, is an annuity due, and it's monthly payments for 4 years. So we got 4 years times 12. 4 times 12 is 48 periods, so N is 48. Alternatively, it can be purchased for $45,000 now and sold for $5,000 after 4 years. So the residual value is $5,000. So what we're looking at here is 2 separate calculations. First, for the present value of the lease payments, and second, for the present value of the purchase. And then it says, okay, we got different rates, compounded monthly, 6.6% or 9% compounded monthly. Now, we did take a look at that one in the process, and just let me see if I can find it here. Okay, so we looked at that one the other day in terms of the video, and it showed how to do that. And I'll just go to, I gotta go to the video. I thought I had it written down and I don't. So I need to, here's time as good as with the buy is we're calculating the present value. So in this particular problem then, I'll just run through this again. This is just a few minutes. What we need to do with the buy is we're calculating the present value of the buy. So let's look first of all at the lease, the present value of the lease. So anyway, let's read number 9 and number 7. A machine can be leased for 4 years at $1,000 per month, payable at the beginning of each month. So the beginning of each month is the clue that this is an annuity due. Alternatively, it can be purchased for $45,000 and sold for $5,000 after 4 years, should the machine be purchased or leased. So assuming first we're looking at a 6.6% rate of return, okay? So let's do this. So some basic facts of the matter is we're spending $1,000 a month on the lease. It's made at the beginning of the month, so it's a due. We got 6.6%, and that is compounded monthly. So we've got some key figures there in terms of the lease. So let's just work that out first. So, and it's for 4 years. Okay, that's it. Maybe we should mention. So that's a total of 48. Let me bring it up. Oops, sorry. Mistake. In terms
Paul? Paul?
That's really all we're dealing with here. Have you got you back? Because I had you lost.
Yeah, I was gone for a second. I don't know what happened. I thought it was my internet.
What happened?
I don't know. The video just froze up. I tried to reach out to you, and I got no answer.
No, because I was kicked off too.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It says it's back now, but the machine was sending me a message, but I was unlocked from the system.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So what we're doing here, what I'm trying to show you.
It's gone again.
Doesn't like that part of the video.
Paul, you there? Can anyone hear me, or?
I can hear
I don't
you.
know what's happening, but it seems like our meeting we're losing our feed. I don't know why.
Don't like that last part of the video.
No. Ooh. Okay. Okay. So I showed you that video the other day on how to do this, and effectively the crux of it is from the lease, you need to be able to do a payments. You need to be able to calculate the present value of the payments using an annuity due. Okay. Now, so using the present value formula, we draw the information, we bring it back, and we ask ourselves, what is the present value of the lease? And then we got to bring back the payments, and we're looking for the present value of the payments. Now, I'm going to try this one more time. I'm going to speed it up in the interest of time because I'm afraid that might be what's causing the system to break down for today. That's the first time that has ever happened. Which is really weird. No, our system is crashing today. I don't know why our system is crashing. Anyway, let me just stop me here because I think that I'm the one that's causing the problems here. Stop. Okay. So what I'd like to do today is using this same type of methodology. I wanted to go through one more example here. Now, where is my example? Bear with me. I'm confused now where I am because I lost my focus. Okay, here we go. Lease versus buy. So we looked at number 7 there in the video, and if you don't understand this, probably it's best you have as equal access to the video as I do to show how this number 7 is calculated. But number 8 is basically the same type of problem. So today I would like us to try number 8. So if we get cut off, I'm busy working at number 8. Number 8 says a real estate salesperson can lease an automobile for 5 years at $5,000 a month, payable at the beginning of each month. So this is an annuity due. We know that, 500 a month, 5 years, that's 60 months in total, an annuity due. Or you can purchase it for $32,000. She can obtain a loan at 3.75%, compound it monthly to purchase the car. So should she lease or buy the car? Now, there was a couple scenarios. Let's look at the first one. Trading value of $5,000 after 5 years. So it's a 5-year lease. The very first thing we need to do is look at what is the present value of the lease. So using this key information, $500 a month for 60 months in total. 3.75 is the monthly compounded rate. We need to figure out what 3.75 is per month. So we need to take 3.75% divided by 12 in order to get the monthly rate. We're going to plug all that into the present value formula, which is PMT, the present value formula, and I've got it up here, right there, that formula right there. We're going to plug that into that formula. Whoops. We're going to plug that into that formula, and that's going to give us the net present value of the lease. Okay? That's going to be option 1. Yep.
I can't see anything up on my screen.
Don't tell me that.
Yeah.
Nothing.
It's just your little face icon. That's it.
That's it, eh? Gee whiz. Trouble. Let me try that again. Is this working?
Yeah, now you got it.
Yep.
Now I got it. Yeah. I'm getting kicked out of everything here today. Okay. Let me just say this again. Start over again. 8 was what I want to look at. So I got a real estate salesperson. She got a lease buy option. She can buy the car. She can lease the car. She's looking for the least cost option. Okay. In order to figure out the least cost option, what we need to be able to do is take the lease amount, first of all, and figure out what the net present value of the lease amount is. Well, it's $500 a month for 60 months, 3.75% compounded monthly. So we need to get the monthly interest rate on that. We need to throw all that information into the present value formula. Okay, so the present value formula is located, I put it right here. It's a little bit fuzzy, but I put it right here. It is an annuity due, so we got to multiply it by 1 plus I. So that's going to give us, when we do that, that will give us the present value of the string of lease payments. That's the first thing we need to do. The second thing we need to do is to say, okay, what is the present value of the purchase of the car? Okay, well, it's $32,000 now, so that's the present value of the now amount. But it does say at the end of the car's life, or we're going to sell that car, and we're going to get $5,000 for it at the end of 5 years. So we got to get the present value of that $5,000 and bring it back to today and subtract that off the $32,000 car. So I wanted to give you 10 minutes now to see if you can do that problem. Part A, we'll look at part A only. Okay? Now, just so I can judge time on this, I'm going to do it myself here. How's everyone making out?
Good.
Familiar with. Okay. Capital rationing is the first one. Capital rationing involves figuring out which project's the best. That's effectively what it comes down to. And it's which project is the best within the confines of a budget. So we have X amount of money to spend, and every project costs X amount or Y amount to complete. So if we're going to use it, we're going to use our budget, we want to use the most efficient, effective, profit maximizing options. Okay, so if we got options, and the same could hold true to least cost if you're into a cost atmosphere. So effectively, with this capital rationing, all we're trying to do is to say which ones will give the most bang for the buck within the bucks that we have. The process, pretty straightforward. We calculate the net present value of the projects, and some of the questions will give you the next present value, the net present value. Some of them you have to calculate the net present value, but effectively at a point in time in the question, you need to say how much revenue flows into this project, how much money flows out of this project. The net present value is important. Then we take that net present value and we compare it with the dollars that we spend on the project. So if there's so much coming in terms of the present value and there's so much coming out in terms of the dollars, we're looking for the ratio of one to the other. And based on that, we'll be able to determine which projects give the biggest yield. In other words, the best ratio. And what we're going to do then is select those projects based on our budget. So if our budget's $50,000 and the top three projects are $25,000, $10,000, and $10,000, yeah, we can do that. It's within our budget, right? So we basically looked at this simple example. And this simple example here, the firm has identified the following 4 investments. So what we've done, oh, maybe I should be looking at number 2. I thought it was, yeah, number 1 is on the video. I did number 2 in here. Okay, so I'll just suggest number 2 because I got it physically right in front of me. But 2 of these examples are done. The investment committee for a company has identified the following 7 projects with positive net present values. Obviously, you're not going to pick a project that has a negative net present value. Why would you bother to do that? It loses money. So if the board of directors has approved $3 million capital budget, so there's our budget, $3 million, and you'll see each of the projects have a certain amount of initial investment, 1 million, 1.8 million, and so on. So what we're doing is we're asking ourselves which is the most efficient project. So what we're going to do is compare the net present value of each given one with the initial investment. So you see here, what we've done is to say, okay, here's our initial investment. Here's the net present value of the project. We'll compare the project net present value with the initial investment. The initial investment, assumably, is now. Now we're comparing apples with apples. This is the value now, and net present value is the value now. So that's a 60% yield, and we do that for each one of these. And then we say, well, which one has the best yield? Well, number 1 has the best yield. Number 4 has the second best yield. Number 5 has the third best yield. And we go through the process there. We kind of rank them effectively. And then we just do them according to the budget. So number 1, for example, is going to chew up $1 million. So that's $1 million of our budget gone. Number 2, which is the 4th project, is our second choice, which is the 4th project, is $600,000. So that chews up some here. So we got 1.6 spent. The number 3 project is the next best alternative, and it chews up $750,000. We've got about $650,000 left, so we need to find a project that's under $650,000. And number 5 is the best option, so we pick it. So effectively, that's just a mechanical process of doing this ranking. Okay, so that's what capital rationing is. It's just a ranking system. So I've got a couple examples down there. The topic 3, which is what I want to look at this morning, is really a neat one because it allows us to really compare projects or compare project options, I'll call it. Another one for making a business decision, okay? So effectively, if we have a choice with buying a couple or 3 or a dozen, but we're only going to look at a couple in an example. If you have an option to buy a couple of items, one of a couple, you've got some choices. And you ask yourself, which one should I buy? Well, if you ask yourself that, what you're really asking is, which one is going to generate the most profit for me? Which one is the most economically viable for me to produce? You know, if you've got a couple of farm tractors, for example, that you're looking at. You're a farmer, you're looking at a couple farm tractors, and you're asking yourself, which farm tractor should I buy? Which farm tractor gives me the best bang for the buck? And I'm going to keep both of those farm tractors for a certain length of time, and I want to compare the revenues that one farm tractor is going to make for me versus the revenues that another farm tractor is going to make for me. I'm going to subtract off the expenses. I got a mistake made there. I got to fix that. That should read out. So you got a farm tractor, and you're going to say to yourself, okay, this farm tractor is going to pull so much money in terms of revenue, and I'm going to calculate the net present value of that string of money that that particular item is going to generate for me. I also know that particular project or that particular item is going to cost me some money in terms of the investment, so I got to calculate the net present value of that. And if I were to take and compare how much comes in versus how much goes out, that's going to give me my net return. So I'm going to do that for both of these units. So if I'm looking at 2 farm tractors, I'm trying to make a decision which one to buy. I'm going to measure how much is one going to make for me, how much is the other going to make for me. Then I'm going to look, how much is that one, the first one, going to cost me? How much is the second one going to cost me? I'll get a net return on that, meaning I'll compare the ins and outs, and I'll pick the one that has the best rate of return. So I got a couple of problems here, and I got to work backwards on this. So I'm going to look at number 5 first. I'm just going to bring you through the logic of it. I've got a little talk show here that brings you through it. But here's Carl Williams. Does wheat combining in southern Alberta. He will purchase either a Massey Ferguson or a Massey Harris or whatever, a Massey tractor. So he got 2 tractors he's trying to decide over. He got a Massey and a Deere, a John Deere tractor. So he's kind of making the point of which one should I buy? So the Massey will cost $190,000 and the Deere costs $156,000. So the Massey is the more expensive unit. So, you know, you could stop your analysis in there and say, well, buy the cheaper unit. But there are other factors that come into play. The second factor that comes into play is the trading values. After 6 years will be $50,000 for the Massey and $40,000 for the John Deere. So there's going to be a pot of gold at the end when we sell that machine. We're going to sell it after 6 years, and we're going to get $50,000 for the Massey, $40,000 for the Deere. So really, if we wanted to calculate the net present value of how much it's going to cost to buy that tractor, what we do is we consider the amount of money we got to spend now. Let's say for the Massey, we got to spend $190,000 now. But we know we're going to get $50,000 back in 6 years' time. So let's calculate the net present value of that $50,000 to bring it back to today's dollars. So that's money that's going to come back to us. So if we calculate the net of that, so if we say, okay, we're paying $190,000 for it, but we're getting $40,000 back for it in present value dollars, that means the net cost of that tractor is, say, $150,000. Okay, so we're going to do the math on that to get the exact numbers, but I'm just giving you the kind of the general overview. The Deere tractor costs $156,000, and we're going to turn around and sell it in 6 years' time for $40,000. So what we need to do is calculate the present value of that $40,000 and figure out how much that Deere is going to cost us now by taking the the price that we're going to pay for it less the amount of money that we're going to get back, the present value of the amount we're going to get back for it. So that way we can kind of figure out our expenses on that tractor. So there's our expenses. Because Massey cuts an 18-foot swath versus a 15-foot swath for the deer, Carl estimates that the annual profit for Massey will be 10% higher. Okay, that's nice. Well, the other one, the deer is going to make $70,000 in profit. So 10% higher is $77,000. So effectively, the Massey is going to generate $77,000 a year in profit. So for 6 years. So that's an annuity. So we can figure out what is the present value of that positive stream of money coming in, that $77,000. What is the value of that $77,000 for 6 years now? And we could also do the same thing for the John Deere. What is the value of the $70,000 now for 6 years of payments of that? So what we're doing is looking at our inflows. So we're getting the net present value of our inflows. The Massey equipment dealer will provide 100% financing for 7% per year. Deere will provide 100% financing for 6%. Two different rates of return. For the Massey, it's 7, and for the Deere, it's 6. So the question that Carl is faced with is, how should I select this? On what basis? Well, if we're going to select it on the basis of dollars, let's do a net present value analysis for that. So let me just bring you to, I'm going to take you through, I'm going to take you through this example now.
Anyways, tractor we bought.
Okay.
So what we had.
Okay.
70s.
I never marked
this. We've got the Massey.
Can you see that?
The Massey tractor.
Yep.
Yep.
Again, it's the combine harvester thing with the big blade on the front that cuts. It's $190,000 cost, and the resale. That's the end value, is $50,000, and it has an 18-foot blade, so its profit. So this is their expenses and revenue. Its revenue, I should say, not profit. Its revenue will be 10% higher than the other tractor. So it's 70,000 is the other tractor plus 10%. Now, 70,000 plus 10% comes to $77,000. And the cost of capital, in the case of Massey, is 11%. And all of these, most of these things last for 6 years. Okay. So that's the pertinent information for the Massey. Now we'll look at the Deere, John Deere tractor. The expense in this case for the John Deere tractor is $156,000. It's a less expensive tractor. And at the end, we can sell it for $40,000.
Paul, where did the 11% come from?
Okay.
So just to
The cost of the capital.
So what we got is we're comparing.
Stop. Okay, the cost of the capital. Let me go back. Let me mark the point. 1927.
Expenses.
Let's
now
go.
Those expenses in terms of this amount right here.
Stop. So in this particular case, the 16, yeah, that's right. I might have misquoted the dollar. I might have misquoted the. I did. I made a mistake there.
What am I going to do with you?
What? Yeah. Anyway, so the mechanics of it are exactly the same.
All right.
And at the end, we can sell it for $40,000.
They might have changed numbers in this book. I used the previous book, And
So
it might be changed. I don't know.
that there.
I have no explanation for my mistake.
Comparing outgoing expenses. Now, those expenses, in terms of this amount right here, this amount right here, this is really is the present value because that's what we're spending right now. Okay. This $50,000 in value and $40,000 in value for the other machine is in 6 years' time. So what we have to do is to calculate the present value of that amount right now and the present value of that amount right now. That's one of the things we need to do in order to be able to compare apples with apples, get everything back to today. In terms of the revenue for the Deere tractor, we're told that the Deere tractor, where it has a smaller blade, its revenue is $70,000 a year. So again, the revenue on the Massey is 10% higher. It's $77,000 a year, and the revenue on the Deere tractor is $70,000 a year. Now, that's an annuity for 6 years. Okay, so again, it's a flow of payments that come in every single year for 6 years in both cases, but one is higher than the other. Now, the cost of the capital, which we measured that annuity, with the Deere tractor, instead of 11%, it's 10%.
Yeah, they must have changed it in the book.
Here's what we need to do. We need to, first and foremost, the task one is the resale value. Get the present value of the resale value, okay? So in the particular instance of the Massey tractor, the resale value is $50,000. And we're going to divide that by the interest rate is 11%, so 1.11, which is to the power of 6. So we'll do that, and that comes to 26,000. So in today's dollars, or in the present values, that $50,000 that we're going to get in 6 years' time is worth $737.97. There's 26,000. So that's the present value of resale. Okay, that's for the Massey tractor. Let's take a look at the other tractor now, the Deere tractor. We're going to get $40,000 for that one. And again, it's 1.10. The cost of capital is 1.10. And again, 6 years, and we'll do the math on that, and that comes in at $22,598.82. So just so we're absolutely clear on this now, I want you to make sure that you understand what I'm doing here. I want to find out right now what the value is of the things that are happening with this tractor. In the first instance, we have to put $190,000 out right now to buy it, or $156,000 out right now to buy it, depending on which tractor we buy. The Deere is a lot less expensive. Okay, so just forgetting time value of money or anything to do with internal rate of return, we're going to say, well, let's buy the less expensive tractor. It's $156,000, a lot less than $190,000 for the Massey one. Okay, yeah, we could use that as a decision-making tool, but we know that time value of money should be considered, and this is why we're doing this more complicated scenario here. We know, too, that in 6 years, we're going to sell this equipment, and we can get $50,000 for the Massey, $40,000 from the Deere. So what we need to do is to say, well, that $50,000 or $40,000 is coming in 6 years' time. How much is that worth right now? If we said, what's the equivalent value of those amounts right now? Well, the equivalent value of those amounts right now, using our calculation, is $26,737 and $22,598. So, you know, right now, then, let's just, I'm doing this Massey and the Deere. Okay, we have to spend now $190,000 for the Massey, or we could spend now 156 for the. Now, considering the resale, PV of resale, we could subtract that out. Okay, so we calculated the present value of the resale to be $26,737.97 for this rate, and $22,598.82 for that rate. So really, you know, the actual cost in today's dollars, the cost, the PV cost, this is the present value cost for the for this one here. It's 190, 123 minus 26,737.97. So the actual cost in terms of is 262.03. Okay. We could also look at the deer one and say, well, what is the actual cost of that? It was 156 minus the 22,598.82, and the actual cost in terms of present value is 133,401.18. So, you know, if we factor in resale, the Massey is still more expensive. So now we got to consider, well, how much money comes in order to get this net present value. We also got to consider the revenue. These are the expense side, but the revenue, well, let's take a look at revenue. The Massey tractor, we're saying that we're going to make $70,000. So what we need to be able to do is calculate the present value of $77,000 per year for 6 years at the discount rate, which is 11% for this one here. So let's plug that into the formula. So the formula is PV of an annuity formula is the payment, which in this case is $77,000, 1 minus 1.11, which is the interest rate, minus 6. I just want to make sure I got that right, minus 6. Okay. So when we plug those numbers, we run that, we're going to get the present value of that flow of payments, that plus flow of payments, to be $325,751.41. Okay, so this is the revenue coming in. This is the revenue. This is how much money we put out in present value terms. Okay, in present value terms. Now we'll go over to the deer and we'll ask, well, what's the present value of that? So we're looking for present value of $70,000 a year for 6 years at 10%. And when we plug that into our formula, so the PVA, its present value is 70,000. 1 minus 1.10 to minus 6 over 0. And that will give us the present value annuity of $304,868.25. So we have now our revenue and we have our cost. So we've got two of those important things. So essentially we have to kind of weigh one out against the other. Well, in the first instance, the revenue minus the cost, if we do the math on that, it'll be $162,489.31. So that means that's profit. That tractor will generate that much profit for us. The Massey tractor will generate that profit for us. And all I'm doing there is taking this and subtracting the cost. I'm going to do the same thing here with this one, taking this, subtracting the cost. So again, this one here comes to 171,467. Now, ask what one is the most profitable tractor, considering the cost of money in this. Well, even though the Deere is a less expensive tractor, even though the Deere is a less expensive tractor, and it seemed more, it certainly too generates the most net present value for us. So we should pick this one here. And the question is, how much better is it? Well, if we were to subtract this from this, we'll get about $8,968 difference. So again, what we're all doing here is considering the time value of money in terms of making decisions on equipment. This will generate a certain dollar for us and incur certain expenses. What we're trying to do is say, what is the net of each one of those? Revenue minus your expenses. Which one is the better one? Which one provides us the most benefit? The most benefit in this case comes from the Deere. Okay, so that's a great example.
Okay. So, okay, did you understand the basic concept of how that works? It's a bit of a, if you take it from the 20,000 foot level, it's pretty straightforward. We take how much comes in, and we subtract from it how much goes out in net present value form, and we compare the two, and we say which one is the better investment. What I'd like to do now is to go backwards here and look at number 4. I'd like you to look at number 4. And we'll work on the percentages that's in the problem, obviously, as opposed to what I had. So a small regional airline, let me bring it up, can't read it, my screen's too small. A small regional airline has narrowed down the possible choices for its next passenger plane. 2 alternatives. The first alternative is called the Eagle. It costs $600,000 and would have an estimated resale value of $100,000 in 7 years. So again, looking at the outflow, and this is the outflow side, $600,000 needs to be spent right away, and in 7 years we're going to get $100,000 back. So in order to figure out what is the net present value of their expenditure, we take the $600,000, we get the net present value of $100,000 in 7 years' time. How much we spent versus how much we're going to get back, and we'll be able to get the net present value of our expenditure. We do the exact same thing with the Albatross. The Albatross costs $750,000, and it has an estimated resale value of $300,000. So again, we're going to take the $750,000 now, and we're going to subtract from it the present value of that $300,000 in 7 years. That's going to give us our net outlay. The annual operating profit, which is the revenue or the inflow side, would be $150,000 for the Eagle. Because of the greater fuel efficiency and size of the Albatross, the net profit on that one is going to be $190,000. So we're going to get $150,000 a year for 7 years versus $190,000 a year for 7 years. So we'll be able to calculate the net present value of that stream for both of those airplanes. What we're going to do is do both of that, and then we're going to compare the net effect of revenue inflow and outflow for each one and make a decision based on that. The cost of capital for both planes is 6.5%. So in current dollars, what's the economic advantage of selecting the preferred alternative? So take 10 minutes or 15 minutes or so and take a look at that problem, if you would. And it works. If you take a look at the video again, it lays out the exact same way. Okay, we can either do the outflow first or the inflow first. It doesn't matter. Seeing the outflow is what's presented first. I'll do the outflow first. So take 10 minutes or so to do that. It's 10:02 now, so a quarter after we'll come back and take a look at that one.
Paul,
Yeah.
where can I find that video to that you just showed?
Oh, okay. Well, if you go to these slides, okay, that's the first thing. I sent you the link to the slides. If you go in the course, you'll find the link to the slides, or I can post it here now. Just give me a half a second here, and I'll share it right now and copy the link. So in the
Because I can't find the slides in the content section, like under Unit 5.
no.
No.
Okay. Okay, I'm in the chat box there now, and I've just posted the link to the slides.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
They should be there in the news section. So the video is right the very last slide, I believe.
Okay.
Okay, well, I just wanted to take a look at this before we run out of time. So what I've done is I've just broken it down into, I've looked at each of the aircraft individually, okay? So first I took a look at the Eagle, okay? So the Eagle costs $600,000 to buy. It has a $100,000 resale value in 7 years. So the first thing I did was look at the outflow. So this is this part right here. Outflows. So 600,000 went out, less the 100,000 resale in 7 years at 6.5%. So what I did is I did a net present value calculation. So the net present value of that 100,000 in 7 years is 64,000 and change. So the difference between how much I had to put out now and the present value of what I was going to get back gave me the net outflow, the net present value of the outflow for the Eagle airplane. So 535,000 and change. Okay? See how I did that? The next thing that we had to do was look at the inflows. So this is the net value of the outflows. So the net value of the inflows is we're going to make an annual profit on this of $150,000 for 7 years. So effectively, we're looking for the net present value of $150,000 for 7 years. We run that through the present value formula, and we'll get $822,677.97. So essentially, what we have is $822,677 coming in, $535,649 going out, for a net benefit of that particular airplane, the Eagle airplane, of $208,000 and change. Now, again, you don't have to get caught up in numbers here. What we're using this for is decision-making purposes, not to get the exact values, okay? So it's approximately $287,000 in net benefit, that particular model of airplane. Follow that?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so let's move down to the next one. Let's take a look at the Albatross. So the Albatross, the outflows on the Albatross was $750,000 now, and we're going to get $300,000 back in 7 years. So we take the present value of, we calculate the present value of $300,000 in 7 years is $193,000. So the net present value of the outflow then is $556,948, which is just how much you spend now versus how much you're going to get back, the present value of what you're going to get back. So the Albatross is going to cost us $556,900 in outflow. And we also know that the Albatross is going to make $190,000 for 7 years. So we'll calculate the inflows. So here, this is an annuity, $190,000. So we run that through the annuity formula. We calculate the present value of the inflows is $1,042,000. So if we take the inflow, $1,042,000, subtract the outflow, $556,000, the net present value of the Albatross in terms of money coming in is $485,000. So what we got to do is compare how much money comes in the Eagle versus how much money is going to come in the Albatross. So again, back to the Eagle is $287,000. The Albatross, $485,000. By far and away, the Albatross has the higher value. So we would, if we had to make a decision for the purposes of decision making, the Albatross is the better option. And then the question, I think the question says, what is the additional value, or one over the other? Well, if we took the 485, which I haven't done, 485 and subtract the 287, you're going to find that that's about $160,000, or 485, 287 is $200,000 benefit of one plane over the other. So that's effectively how that works. Takes a bit of time to do that type of problem. The mechanics of it are not too complicated, but effectively that is how that works. Okay, I'm going to leave payback period for today. That's a 5-minute discussion. It doesn't take very long, so we'll address that on Friday, and then we'll start the review. Any questions?
Nope.
Queries? Well,
No.
okay. Well, anyway, that's it for today then. We'll see you on Friday. Thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Gets lonely here otherwise. Okay.
Have a nice
Yeah.
Friday.
Thanks.
Keep in mind what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to get an exact answer. We're trying to make a decision. So So we've got a situation here that we're looking at a lease and we're looking at a purchase. So first the lease, which is the more complicated calculation. We're doing 60 months, $500 a month, 3.75%. We got to calculate the monthly rate of interest. So I is 0.001003125. We'll plug all that into the formula, and we get $27,401.92. So that's the lease cost. Okay, L-E-A-S-E, not leased. L-E-A-S-E. The lease cost. The total present value of the lease is $27,401.92. Over in the little box on the left, I say, well, the payment. So it's $32,000 we got to pay, and we're getting the $5,000 back at the end when we sell the car. So let's take the present value of $5,000, which is at that interest rate is 4,922.71. We take the 4,922, subtract it, or take it off the 32,000. So the car to buy is really costing us $27,077 outlay. So we've got really two potential outlays. We can buy it for 27 and change, or we can lease it for 27 and a half or 27.4. So we're asking ourselves, which option would we choose? Well, we're going to take the least cost option. So the least cost option is buying it. See how that works?
Yep.
Nope.
No?
No, that didn't work out for me.
Okay. Well, I want, so using this as the model then, so do you understand what I did?
Yeah, the first part of it I got okay, the 27,400, but it's the purchase, the second
Okay, the
part.
purchase. Okay,
Yeah.
so what we got is $32,000 needs to be outlaid right now. We need to plunk down $32,000 now
Mhm.
with the promise of $5,000 in 5 years. When we sell the car, we'll get $5,000 back for it. So what we need to do is figure out what is the present value of that $5,000.
Yeah.
So the present value of that $5,000 at that stated interest rate of 3.75 per. Oh, I think I made a mistake.
So it should have been 4146, right?
I neglected to think about the payments. Number of payments. I put in 5 years payments. That should have been 60. Mistake. Yep. 60. So I need to do my math again on that now.
Do you have the workings that you did on the screen or no?
Did I have the workings that I did on the screen? What do you mean?
Did you post it on the screen? Because right now I only see the question.
I'm getting kicked out. Why am I getting kicked out? Yes, I did. Sorry.
I don't see it. Yeah. There.
Sorry. I'm getting. I'm having computer problems here today. Here we go. Okay. So there it is right there. But I neglected to think of the 60.
Yeah.
So I made a little boo-boo there. I need to do the math on that again now. So I'm just punching numbers into my calculator here. If you're wondering what in the frig is he doing? 1.00. Says 1.2058. So that's 4,146.62 is what I got.
Yep.
And that nets out to 27,853. I'll correct that now when I get a chance. So we got 27,000. The purchase, yes, the purchase is 27,853. The lease is 27,401. So we should pick the lease. We picked the least cost option. I'll tidy it up. Okay? You
Perfect.
see how that works?
Yeah.
The math is a bit of a pain, but the mechanics of it are pretty straightforward. Okay, so that's those. So that's what we looked at there, and I'll revise that now in a couple minutes. In terms of the last few things, and this is just what I call the more trivial matters here, is there's a terminology called the hurdle rate, which is the hurdle rate is really the rate of interest that makes the project. It's like a break-even point. It's the point at which the project becomes feasible or not feasible. Okay, so that's just the terminology, that is. To invest or not to invest, and as I say, there's what we just did. And I got a couple more problems there, and this is St. Lawrence Bus Lines is number 1. And that's what I'd like you to take a look at next. Now, all of these are of a similar type of situation, okay? What we're doing is we need to calculate the present value of the stream of payments. So in the case of St. Lawrence Bus Lines, is offered a contract for busing school children. Let me boost that up so I can read it. That will produce an annual profit of $70,000 for 7 years. So they can make $70,000 for 7 years. To fulfill the contract, St. Lawrence is going to have to go buy some buses. So it has to go out and buy $433,000 worth of buses. And at the end of the contract, they're going to get $80,000 back when they sell the buses, okay? So this is almost an identical problem to the one we just did. We have money coming in, and the money coming in is $70,000 for 7 years. So we need to find out what the present value is of that $70,000 for 7 years. So that's a present value in annuity. We also have money going out. So right off the bat, we got to put $433,000 down. So that's money going out right now, $433,000. But at the end of the contract, we're going to sell those buses and we're going to get $80,000. So we need to discount back the $80,000 that we paid for the bus, that we're going to get for the buses. So we need to find out what the present value of $80,000 is and subtract that from the cost of the initial purchase of buses, which is $433,000. And we're going to use a cost of capital of 6%, 7%, and 8%. Well, first of all, I'd like to do it for 6%, okay? So what I'd like you to do now is, again, this uses the same mechanicals that we just used in that problem. We need to think about a present value of a payment. So this is $70,000 for 7 years. So do the math on that, and then draw back that $80,000 to now. So take a few minutes to look at that one. So if we look at this one here, again, we've got a similar type of situation that we need to consider. We've got $70,000 coming in for 7 years. Okay, so the very first thing that we really need to do is to draw up this type
Showing workings are not great.
here. Right off the bat, we got to put 433,000 down. So that's negative 433,000 over there in that now category. Then we need to think about what is the present value of the stream of revenue. So it's 70 for 7 years. We put that into over here. I've got the formula kind of squeezed in there. So basically I did the present value formula of the string of payments, $70,000, 6% comes to 397.66. So that's the net present value of the stream of payments is 390,776 or 766. So that means that that's how much money comes in from this part of the enterprise. And then the third element is at the end of it, there's $80,000 when we sell the buses, we're getting $80,000, and that's in 7 years' time. So that's a payment in 7 years. So we got to get the present value of $80,000 in 7 years' time at 6% interest rate, and that's $53,205. So that is added back on to our positive flow. So we'll take the 433 that we spent, add back the 390 that we made, add back the 53 that we made, and that comes up with a positive number, i.e. $10,972.34. That means that we're making more coming in than money going out. So at 6%, we're making $11,000 on this contract, or approximately $11,000 in this contract. So we should proceed with the contract. You see how that works?
I think so, yeah.
Do I still have a connection? Hello?
Yep.
Hello?
Any questions with that?
Griffin is coming in, but I'm not sure what he's saying.
Oh, I think my internet's being garbage again. Oh boy.
I can hear him fine.
I take it that I still have you connected. I can see that it's working. It looks like it's working. Any questions on that? Hello?
I'm here.
Is there anybody out there?
You don't hear us?
Is there anybody on there in the system? Is it working?
Yeah, hello.
No,
You
I
are?
can't hear you. No. So Griffin has texted me to say that. Okay. So check. Okay, you're here. I got some written messages, so that's good. I'm all set then. Okay, did you see how I calculated that? Generally?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's all of these are about the same sort of thing and how they're done. I just wanted to introduce you to this last. This is really the. There's a couple little, I'll call them throwaways that we put in here. Something called capital rationing. Okay, and this is a pretty straightforward thing. Capital rationing occurs when we have when we're a company and we only have so much money to spend. It's economics, right? We only have so much money to spend, so we've got a choice of multiple number of projects. Okay, so we're looking at our year ahead and we're saying, okay, we got all these projects. We got 3 or 4 projects that we could do. They're all coming back with net present values like we've just calculated. They're all coming back with positive, but we only have so much money. We can't do everything, so we have to make some choice. So businesses need to constantly consider what is the best possible project to pursue. Okay, so capital rationing really involves picking out the ones that make the most sense to do. That's all it is. What are the best projects? So we're going to pick the ones that yield the highest rate of return. So what do we need to do in order to do this? Well, basically we look at it. That's as simple as that. We calculate the net present value as we've just done in those examples. We're calculating net present value per dollar spent on every project. And we simply rank the projects on the highest value to dollar spent. Okay, so how does that work? Well, we need to look at an example, and I believe number 1 here. And I'm going to go down here. I'm going to try this one more time now in order to okay, just a second now.
Project A, we only have so much money. We can only.
Okay, so here's capital rationing. So again, we're looking at, in this one, I want us to look at number 1. Example number 1. So I'll just bring this up now. A firm has identified the following 4 investment opportunities and calculated their net present values. In other words, they just did all the work that we just did on the projects, like we just looked at several of those projects. If the firm's capital budget for this period is limited to $300,000, which project should be selected? So we've got project A has an initial investment of $100,000, and it's going to yield a net present value of $25,000. Project B has an initial investment of $60,000, and it's going to yield a net present value of $40,000. Now, just keeping it simple, looking at the first 2, we spend 100, we get 25. We spend 60, we get 40. It would make more sense to do the 60 and get the 40 than it would to do the 100 to get 25, right? This is how much money we're getting back out of it. This is how much money we got to put into it. In C, we're investing 130, we're getting 60 back. And in D, we're investing 200 and we're getting 100,000 back. So we only have $300,000. So if we add all these up, we can't do them all. 100, sorry, it's 200, 130, 60, and 100, which is way above $300,000. So we got to be able to pick the winners. So how are we going to do that? Okay, so effectively, we're asking capital rationing, which project should we do? Well, the net thing is, we know how much we're putting in, and we know how much we're getting back. So if we compare what we put in to what we get out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, we can take a percentage. So, for example, 100,000 in, 25,000 out. That's a 25%. 60 to 40. Well, that's more like a 70%, 67%, and so on. So we can find the ones that have the highest rates of return. I'll go down to the video now and explain it in that.
Notes here.
Excellent. I got to get rid of this. That little thing gets more.
The money spent.
Okay. Okay.
So in set 16.3, question 1, we see a good example of capital rationing. A firm has identified the following 4 investment opportunities and calculated their net present values. If the firm's capital budget for the period is limited to $300,000, what project should be selected? So we have $300,000 to spend. That's effectively what we got, or I should use the word invest as opposed to spend. So we have $300,000 to invest. And the question is, what projects can we do? Okay, well, the problem gives us some issues here. It gives us project A, B, C, and D. And project A, the upfront cost of project A is $100,000. Okay, $100,000. For project B, it's $60,000. For project C, it's $130,000. And for project D, it's $200,000. Now, if we just looked at it at that, you know, we'd say to ourselves, wow, we got $300 to spend, $300,000 to spend. We could do either one of those projects, certainly. The question is, which one should we do? You know, should we do this one and this one because we have enough money? Should we do this one and this one? Well, how do we make the choice of which ones we can do? Well, the upfront cost is not sufficient for us. What we also have to do is to consider as well what we something called the net present value. And we've seen in our calculations of net present value is considering how long the project is and these sorts of things. With the time value of money, we take it back to say, how much is the total value of that project when you consider profitability? Like, how much of that? So net present value reflects the current true cost of that in terms of real dollars. So net present value for the first project is $25,000. For the second project is $40,000. Third project is $60,000, and the fourth project is $110,000. Okay, so again, looking at net present value, that's not much good in terms of figuring out how much we can spend, because these numbers are not reflective of the actual. This is how much is actually worth. So what we have to do really is to look at the comparison of the net present value relative to the upfront cost. So if we were to take the net present value per dollar spent, this is the calculation we need to make, is we take, for example, $25,000 net present value divided by $100,000 we have to put up in front, and we get 0.25. If we were to take the net present value of the second investment, is $40,000, plus divided by the $60,000 up front, that's 0.67. And if we were to take the net present value of the third project, it's $60,000, divided by the initial investment, which is $130,000, and that's 0.46. And then the fourth project, we're looking at, it's $110,000 net present value compared to the initial cost of $200,000, and that's 0.55. Now with that, we can rate which ones give us the best ratio of value to money spent. So let's rank them. 0.67 is the highest one. This is a number one project. That's the highest. In other words, the net present value is the highest per dollar spent. The next one is project D, which has 0.55. So that's the second major project that we could do. The next one is project C, and finally the lowest one is project A. So this is the order in which we should attack the projects. Now the question is, we only have $300,000 to spend. So project one, well, project choice one is B. So project B is $60,000 up front. So that means we have left over. It's 300,000 is how much the budget is minus the amount 60. So that means we have 240,000 left over to work on another project. Well, our second rated project then is project D. D, it's the second highest. It has an upfront cost of $200,000. So the amount of money that we have left over after spending that is $40,000. So can we do anything else? Is there any upfront cost that's less than $40,000? No. So project B and D would yield the biggest bang for the bucks that we're spending. We're not spending all of our bucks, granted, but it certainly provides the best bang for the buck. And that's what project rationing is supposed to do. It's supposed to tell us, hey, here are the projects you should pick. And in this case, B and D are the best projects.
That's a pretty simple concept. All we're doing is looking at how much do we put in, how much do we get out, what's the ratio, and we pick the highest ratio. So that's pretty standard for that capital budgeting to be able to do something like that. Any questions on that?
No.
I think that you know, if we look at number 2 here, just let me bring that up. So I think we can do this together. An investment committee of a company has identified the following 7 projects with net present values. If the board of directors has approved $3 million capital budget for the current period, what projects should be selected? So, as we've seen, we have an initial investment amount and we have a net present value. The initial investment is what you put into it. The net present value is what you're going to get out of it. So if we were to take 1 million going in, 600,000 coming out, that's a 60%. Okay, so that would be 60%. I've run out of paper. I want you to just take a look. Just do the numbers on for number 2. Do the numbers and figure out which ones have the highest percentages. budgeting section. And this last topic, thank goodness, is the easiest one we're going to run across. So I'm just going to switch the camera now to the slides. And okay, I think you can see that now. The as we last left this, we were looking at this topic 3, which is comparing investment options. And really, we used this example. We did a couple examples, one for a regional airline, and another one for Carl Williams and his Massey or Deere. And effectively, what we did is we looked at the values of in and out, okay? The values in and out, present values of in and out for 2 particular assets. So be it a couple of tractors or be it a couple of airplanes. We looked at how do we figure out which one to buy based on a measure of the present value of how much money we had to spend on them and the present value of how much money they were going to generate. And effectively, we made a decision based on which one provided the greatest return. So that was completed there the other day. I put up the slides to that so you can see the answer slides right there for the airplane one. So that was number 1. And the calculation of the other one is on the video. So if you look on the video, you can see that. So any questions on that? No? Okay. Well, this very last topic has to do with the payback period. And the payback period is really looking at how long it takes for an investment to pay back. It is simple, sweet, and not overly complicated. What we do is we look at, in terms of the net present value of a project, in other words, the present value of the project, and we look at the flows of cash that are going to come from that project, and we just ask ourselves, how long does it take for the flows to pay off the net present value of the project? So, for example, if an initial capital investment of $600,000 generates an annual profit of $100,000 for 10 years, so okay, we spend $600,000 up front, and we assume that's the net present. Oh, and we just let me turn off that. Okay, stop. Okay, good. So what we got going on there is we have put $600,000 into something. It's going to generate $100,000 a year for 10 years. And really, if we think about it, we say, well, $100,000 after 6 years, it will pay back $600,000. In other words, the payback period on this particular project is 6 years. So it's no more to it than that. There's no more to it than that. So the payback approach to investment selection has some shortcomings, however, because it ignores the time value of money. You know, we're just looking at $100,000 a year. We're not doing a present value calculation or anything like that. And really, you know, for certain companies and certain projects, we might want a faster payback, and it's kind of arbitrary, this whole manner of how we calculate it. I've got one particular example there, and it says the expected profits from a $52,000 investment are $8,000 in year 1, $12,000 in each of the years 2 through 5, and $6,000 in each years 6 and 7. So effectively, we're going to put $52,000 up front. We're spending $52,000. We're going to get, in the first year, $8,000. Then we're going to get $12,000, $12,000, $12,000, $12,000, $6,000, and $6,000. So we got a string of money that's going to come in. And really what we need to do is count up how many years it's going to take in order to get $52,000 worth of revenue in. So in the first year, there's $8,000. In the second year, there's 12,000, so that's a total of 20,000. And then in the third year, there's $12,000, that's a total of 32,000. And in the fourth year, there's another $12,000, so that's adding up. So you can see here, what I've done is I have written it down because I can't, my memory doesn't stretch as far as what I would like for this stuff. So we've got right here on the left, I've indicated here, okay, 8,000, 12,000, 12,000, 12,000, and so on. And I put the cumulative over here on the right. So $8,000 plus another 12 is 20, plus another 12 is 32, plus another 12 is 44, plus another 12 is 56, plus another 6 is 62, and plus another 6 is 68. So you can see that there's the total cumulative value that's coming out of that. No present value calculation there at all. It's just straightforward. We put 52,000, and I've drawn this little line here to indicate that $52,000 comes in, or we cross that $52,000 line somewhere in year 4, right? You can see that or somewhere, year 4 through to year 5, between there and there, okay? So the question then is exactly how many years does it take? Well, it's 4 years for sure, 4 years and a bit. So the real calculation is the a bit. How much is the a bit? Well, 44 to 56 is $12,000. The difference between 44 and 52 to bring us up to 52 is $6,000. So really, we would estimate then it's 4.5 years. Any questions on that? That's really all there is to it.
Paul?
Yeah.
Can you repeat again how we got the payback occurrence?
Oh, how we? Okay. Well, in the question it says the expected profits from a $52,000 investment. So that's what we're putting up front, $52,000 to buy whatever it is we buy.
Yeah.
And then it's making $8,000 in year 1, $12,000 in year 2, $12,000 in year 3, $12,000 in year 4, $12,000 in year 5, $6,000 in year 6, and $6,000 in year 7. See how that works?
Yeah.
So I've just written them down here. You can see in this slide, I've written it down. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay,
so the cumulative then is 8,000 plus another 12, plus another 12, plus another 12, plus another 12, plus 6, plus 6. Right? So I've just added up these as we go. So all I got to do is really think about, now, when do I hit break even? Well, I hit break even. I spent 52. So when do 52 occur here? Well, it occurs between the 4th and the 5th year. So I know it's 4 years for sure, 4 years and a bit. The distance between 44 and 56 is 12. In other words, there's 12,000. 44 to 52 is 6. So basically, that's $6,000 more is required to get up to the break-even, which is really 12 here. So 4.5 years. See how I've done that? I've just basically taken in a year, you're making 12. So we need to get up to 6. So that's basically 4.5 years.
All right. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So really, if you think about that, that's not overly complicated. And really, that's an eyeballer as opposed to a calculation. That you're eyeballing it. How long is it going to take? Now, some companies, it really depends on the company. Some companies are going to say, we insist on a 3-year payback, or we insist on a 4-year payback, or we insist on a 5-year payback. So this project would get accepted or rejected based on what is the time frame of the payback that the company finds acceptable. And these really go into the non-financial considerations of investments. There's other factors to come in besides financial. We just look at the financial. But, political, social, legal. You look at that project out there, they pumped $45 million into it yesterday out in Argentina. They're building the White Rose extension. The company is going to look at that and say, is this something we want to continue with? And in this environment, it's not money that's driving it. Well, I suppose it's money, but the price of oil is driving it. And is it worth the investment? So that is that whole section there on the payback period and capital budgeting. So, that's an important chapter. The concepts that were risen there are, as I say, important for you to consider. What I wanted to do now is to move on, if I can, to move on to the final unit. So are there any questions on this? If you have any questions later, please, when we go over this in review, please do that. But today I wanted to see if we could, I wanted to see if we could take a look at this. Now, I need to make sure you can see it. So just bear with me. Okay, foreign exchange. That's what we're talking about in this very last unit. And this very last unit is actually chapter 3. Okay, so if you had to ask me, what are we dealing with here? We're dealing with chapter 3. And this is as I say, a one-class chapter. One of the things that you're going to face, or one of the things you're going to see in accounting, and as you move into accounting, is when you run into currency differences. So we could have, for example, something stated in American dollars, or something stated in yen, or something stated in euros, or something stated in pounds. And we got to know how to be able to convert that to Canadian dollars if we're working in Canada. So we need to be able to know how to do that. So the process is fairly straightforward and something that you need to be aware of, okay? So what we're really talking about here, the fancy name on it, or the official name, is an exchange rate. The exchange rate is simply defined as the rate in which one currency can be traded for another. So it's how much it costs to buy an American dollar, or how much it costs to buy a Japanese yen, or how much it is to buy a euro. So it's considered a method for a potential investor to place a value on goods and services offered by a country of interest. So foreign exchange rates are determined by a foreign exchange market. So these currencies are traded on a market just like any other. It's purely competitive market of which currencies will have a value. For example, the Canadian dollar is worth, it went up yesterday, it's 70 odd cents American now. So our dollar is worth about 70 odd % of an American dollar. So normally, we hear terms like base currency, currency, foreign exchange, and foreign exchange rate. Well, the base currency is the first currency quoted. Everything is relative to the base currency. Okay, so our base currency in Canada would be the Canadian dollar. The currency that we're exchanging against is the other country's currency. And the exchange, the rate of exchange in particular, is what is the ratio of one relative to the other. And normally these are presented in tabular form or on the internet. We can go out, you can go on the internet now and find out how much the Canadian dollar is trading for, okay? But here's a tabular form. And this is the same information that you would be thrown back in Google. The numbers will be different because they change every day. But this would be the same information that would be thrown back. And just what I wanted to do was to show you how this table works. Okay, so this is kind of one of those tables. So just take a look at that, and effectively, what we got there is just an idea of one currency's value relative to another. So we got several currencies talked about there. Okay, so let's take a look then at the Canadian dollar. Okay, I want to look at the Canadian dollar, so the top row. And as I say, these numbers change every day. So what we're looking for is Canadian dollar per other currencies. So the per A dollar is the American dollar. So that means $1 Canadian, in this particular, when this was done, at $1.02 American. So a Canadian dollar would be worth $1.02 American, or $1.271. Canadian dollar would be worth $1.34. You'd have $1.34 per pound, or per yen, or per euro per pound. Euro is the E, and the little L is per pound. Swiss franc and per American dollar. So we've got this kind of table, and we can see the relative of one to the other. I'll just look at American here for now, just to keep it simple. The American dollar, $1 per American dollar is 102. And the opposite, if we took 1 over 1.0271, we would get 0.9736. In other words, US dollar per Canadian dollar is 0.97. So this is the corollary of that one, okay? So this is how much you'd have to pay to get American dollar. This is how much American dollar would have to pay to get a Canadian dollar. So that's effectively what we're on to about there, okay? So normally you're shown these types of tables. And the question is, how do we do the math on it then in order to figure out how to calculate how much is it going to cost us to trade one currency for another? So here's the simple methodology. And we put a little bit of a fly in the ointment of this one, and the fact that there's commissions, okay? So how much will it cost in Canadian dollars to purchase 500 US dollars of a currency at a bank that charges 1.5% commission? So let's just worry about the first part first. How much will it cost in Canadian dollars to purchase 500 US dollars? Now, I'm going back to our table in Canadian dollars, US dollars, so $1 Canadian is $1.02, 10271 American. So what we've got is this going on here. So if this is the relationship, 102.71 Canadian equals 1 US dollar, $500, then it's simply 500 times that. And that will be 513.55. Right? So we're just multiplying it up by 5. This is a dollar, so 513.55. So it would cost 513.55 Canadian dollars to buy $1 Canadian, to buy $500 Canadian. If you run into this issue of commission is charged on the final amount. So what we're going to do is, we know that the Canadian dollar was 513. They're charging commission on that, so 1.5% of that, which is $7.70. Two of that together will give you the total cost of the trade. So if you go into one to the other. Here's another example. Calculate the cost in Canadian dollars to purchase $600 US. If 1 Canadian dollar is worth 85 cents US. Okay? So in this case, it's a 1 to 0.85 ratio. So really, 600, it's 600 US dollars to 85. So we can do cross multiplication here in order to figure this out. Okay, so I like doing it intuitively as opposed to this way. We can take the 600.85. That will give us 705.88. And we ask ourselves in our mind, is that correct? Well, if we know that the Canadian dollar in this particular instance is worth more than the US dollar, or sorry, if the US dollar is worth more than the Canadian dollar, we should get a number that is somewhere below a little bit above 600. So, and then we got, after spending a week in London, you're traveling to France. Before departure from Gatwick, you convert the remaining 87 pounds to euros at an exchange rate of 0.075 per euro. How many euros will you receive if the currency shop charges 5% commission? Well, first of all, it is 87 pounds, and the ratio is 0.725. So if we do the cross multiplication on that, we'll get 120 euros. And then we charge the 5% commission for 5% of 120 is 6. So the total cost would be 114 euros. So with that said, then we need to do some exercises in this. You know, again, it's pretty straightforward, but it takes you getting your head around it. Okay. So number one, I put the answers down here, by the way. This is the answers, but I'd like you to take a few minutes to look at this right here. Okay. This concoction that I got here. What I want it to do was to look at number one first. Okay. So we'll just work through number one together. Given amount, so the US dollar 1856. So we got $1,856, and we want to know how much is that in Canadian dollars. Okay. So we've got this much American. How much is it worth in Canadian? Well, if we go over here to our handy dandy table, which I've copied and pasted out of the book there. And again, these numbers are every day, they're different. But we can see in here that a Canadian dollar per US dollar is 1.3576. So that means that a US dollar is 101.3576 times a Canadian dollar. So if we were to take 1856, okay, 1856. So the American dollar is 1.35 that of Canadian. So it would make sense that the Canadian dollar, okay, the Canadian dollar, in this particular instance, the per US dollar rate was 1.356. So if we were to take this amount and multiply it by 1.356, we would get, I don't know, 2,519.71. In other words, that's how many Canadian dollars would be required per US dollar. So we're doing an exchange. So per US dollar, we would require 2,519.71, or the exchange would be. In this instance here, in the second one, given that we've got 123.5, we want to know what's the equivalent in euros. Okay, we want to know how many we give in euros. And if we look over here, the pound, the British pound down here is equivalent to one, let me get my eyes straight, British pound. I can do it one of two ways. The euro is 1.2637 per British pound, and the British pound is per euro. I'm looking for euro here. 0.7913. Now, 0.79 is, as I say, the corollary of that one there, right? If you took one over that there, you'd get that there. So take a few minutes and consider that in this particular instance, we've got a pound, and the pound versus the euro. Take a few minutes to consider that. If we looked at this number 2, then what we got is given 123.5 British pounds, and we're asking how many euros. Okay, so if we look at those numbers that I just showed you, euros per pound is 1.2637, and that's pulled right out of that. Euro per pound is 1.2637. Or we could look at pounds per euro. That's 1 British pound is 0.7913 euros. Okay. What we have is we know our pounds. Okay. So really, if we know our pounds, pounds per euro is 0.79, or euros per pound is 1.36. We can take the pounds and multiply it. Well, basically, we know that maybe I should just start over and say, we know that a euro per pound is 1.26. So we can take 123.5 pounds multiplied by 1.2637, and that will give us 156.07 euros. The third one here says, okay, we got 14,500 Canadian dollars. How many yen is that? And again, we can look at our table. Canadian dollars. So 1 Canadian dollar per yen is 0.01205. And we can work it the other way too. We can look at Japanese yen per Canadian dollar, 82.9876. So we know that for every Canadian dollar, there's 82.9876 yen. Or for every yen, there is 0.01205 Canadian dollar. So seeing we got our Canadian dollars, let's just multiply it by the multiplier for yen. So 14.5 times 82.98 will give us 1,203,320.2 yen. Let's look at number 4. We got 3,225,000 yen. We ask, how many pounds is that? Well, yen to pounds. So Japanese yen to pounds per pound, or per pound. There's 156 Japanese yen, 156.9612 exactly, yen per pound. Okay, or there is I'm looking for the yen here, 0.006375 yen per British pound. So we can take the number of yen, divide it by, or multiply it by the 0.000 whatever. We can do that, or we can do it the opposite way. But the fact of the matter is, we know that if we look at yen, yen is not worth very much relative to, so we can do a little bit of a mental check on that. So we'll take the 32250, multiply it by the 0.006, and that will give us 20,546.48 pounds. Troy, in order to get this straight in my head, as I say, you've noticed I've written both of them down here. You know, pounds are worth more than yen. And you could do that you could do that for each of these, just to kind of logically think about it and say, which is worth more? And we look at number 5. Number 5 says, okay, we've got 3251 euros. So if we got 3251 euros, how much is that in Canadian dollars? Again, we need to do this little bit of a Canadian dollar, 1 Canadian dollar is the equivalent of, 1.8914 Canadian dollar is the equivalent of a 1.49 euros. Or we could say a euro is Canadian dollars 0.6681 of a euro. So again, if we wanted to get that in euros, we just multiply that by 0.6681. Or, okay, so we could do one or the other. We can multiply it, or we could divide depending on which one of these we use. So we've got 3251 euros. So the Canadian dollar then, and in this case, we know the euro is worth more than the Canadian dollar. So it's going to be a smaller amount of dollars. So that would be multiplied by 3251 multiplied by 1.4968, and that would give us 4866.09 euros. Now, all of this really, these types of tables aren't really used that much anymore, because if I show you, if I go here now and I say, well, currency converter. Okay, any currency converter you can put in, and you can check yourself. Just go into Google, look for any form of money at all. So we'll say 1 Canadian dollar. How much is it worth in any currency? So right now, 1 Canadian dollar is 0.78 US dollars. Or I could go 1 US dollar is 1.28 Canadian dollars. So you can go in and actually, instead of using that table as of today, as of right now, this currency converter will do all that work for you. So that's a simpler way to do it. So the currency conversion is all done online now, all done by computer. So what you need to be aware of is the basic crux of how this thing works in terms of relative exchanges and how one currency can be worth more than another. And if we want to convert, we just got to figure out what is the relationship between one and the other in terms of a ratio. Any questions on that? It's good to go do some examples, and you can look for that table out online as of today. That information is always updated, but effectively you can go in and you can convert one for the other. Just do that mental calculation first of which currency is worth more in your mind. Like, is the US dollar worth more than the Canadian dollar, for example? So you can kind of check your answer in terms of making sure you got it done in the right ratio. Okay, well, there it is. There is the course. That is the whole thing we've covered. We have got it all complete now. On Monday, what I plan to do is to do a quick review. I will tell you that the exam is ready to go. There will be 10 questions, as I say, and the whole concept will be for you to either print off those questions or whatever you want to do, leave them on screen, work it out on paper, take a picture of it, probably a PDF file would be great, and send it back to me. And that's exactly how we're going to work it. I have selected questions from across the various topics we've covered, and neither one of them are long, so you should be able to employ that. If you want a good study hint, this is a major hint. Make sure you are familiar with or have done the sample sheets that I have at the end of each unit. The questions are very similar to the sample sheets. If you can do those sample sheets and the answers are there for those sample sheets, if you can do those, you can do the exam. No sweat. Any questions? Are you out there? Everyone's quiet today.
Yeah, I'm
I feel-
still awake.
I'm always concerned I'm talking into nothing. But the fact of the matter is, take a look at some of those examples. Take a look at those sheets. I can't stress enough how important those sheets are to the exam, because that is absolutely, if you know how to do those sheets and you can go through those problems, you will do fine on the exam. Okay, so on Monday we'll start our review.
Sounds good.
That's good.
Sounds good. Thanks.
You guys have a safe and wonderful weekend.
You too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.